Okay, an interesting story that emerged this week from Dia Labs, which is a very sort of reliable source of retail leaks in particular. They're talking about a new version of the PlayStation 5 that's coming along, dubbed Chassis E. And CFI-2100 model. I think the current one is CFI-2000. Essentially, it looks much the same. It's going to be one of these invisible changes to the hardware. Yep, so externally looks the same. However, it looks as though storage is being downgraded. Now, when we move to the CFI 2000, the 825 gigabyte SSD, which is kind of mounted on the motherboard there, was actually upgraded to 1 terabyte. An extra SSD module, NAND flash module, was added to the motherboard there. It looks as though for Chassis E, they're going to be removing that module and going back to 825 gigabytes. So I think, certainly with the current situation around prices seemingly going up for consoles, there's actually a good argument to get in now before either the prices go up again or your console gets downgraded. John, not exactly a fantastic state of affairs and kind of almost like penny pinching, you might think, because how much do these modules cost? It can't actually be that much.
So beyond the cost, the whole thing that's confusing to me is the number of lanes used for the SSD, right? Wasn't it the case where the original PS5 was like 12 lanes or something on PCIe for the NVMe drive?
Right.
And then, which sort of made it so like you could have like an 825 gigabyte drive easily, like numerically it worked out, or like double that or something. But then they switched it to have like 8 maybe, or how, I can't remember the exact setup.
Change. But I understand what you mean.
There was a change that made it mathematically so that 1 terabyte became possible.
Yeah.
With the controller there. So I'm wondering then if they're going back to 825, does that also mean they're going back to this old design as well? Like, what's the deal here? I'm really confused because like mathematically, 825 doesn't make sense,
right,
given how the PS5 Slim is designed.
Maybe obviously there's going to be a board revision involved, which justifies the CFI 2100 labeling. So it kind of makes sense that they probably have changed the boards to accommodate the fewer number of modules, but it's certainly not ideal, is it?
It's weird, yeah. And I can't imagine it. I guess when building a machine on the bill of materials, every cent counts, right?
Yeah.
But I can't imagine the saving more than like single digits, maybe like $10, I don't know, at max of overall cost. Like, I don't see how it would make that much of a difference. And frankly, we're in no man's land here with consoles. Like, we've never had a generation where consoles kept getting more expensive while also losing features. We've lost features, but prices have come down. But now we're seeing both increases, and then in order to prevent more price increases, now they're taking away features as well, even though it's now more expensive than it ever was. Like, the whole situation just feels really kind of icky to me in a way that's like, it really makes you concerned for like where console gaming is going, because it seems like it's financially not all that sustainable anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, you're not the only one with concerns about pricing. Capcom were talking this week about they think that the take-up for Monster Hunter Wilds is actually lower than expected because the PlayStation 5 hasn't come down in price, which is certainly an interesting point of view. I'm not sure I fully agree with that, but I guess it kind of
there's already
makes
a lot
sense.
of them out there, you know what I mean?
I think the other thing, of course, is that unit sales of the PlayStation 5 seem to be broadly in lockstep with the PlayStation 4 generation. But it does say to me, of course, that if the price was lower, it could actually be much higher. It's a tricky one. What do you think about this, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you enter this realm where you're starting to take away stuff over time after having built them up, it does seem like extreme penny pinching. Like, just like John, I'm very confused at like what the exact rationale is behind this versus maybe the publicity that it would create of actually releasing a model like this. I also think that model, given the current size of games, is kind of not so great anymore. These, unless this is a model just made for people who only play the forever games, that is the thing. Like the Series S is supposed to fulfill at the same point. Like it installs literally one game.
It's a bit more than one game.
Yeah, but maybe two games.
Two very, very big games. But your point is actually mirrored by this supporter question from Snorlax #1 Cat Pixel Peeper. The PS5 base launched with 825 gigs, the PS5 Slim upgraded to 1 terabyte. But there are two things I'd like to point out. Most players who are upgrading at this point are those who play Warzone and or Fortnite plus FIFA. With 825 gigs, you are good for that. 666 gigs usable. If that avoids a price increase, so be it. The magic number is 512 gigabytes usable because Series S had 330 gigabytes usable and was not good enough. Also, games are using more compression thanks to Lumen and RTGI. I'm not sure that last comment.
It doesn't check.
Just less data is what they mean, but yeah.
I know what they're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'd also take issue with the concept that the people who are upgrading now are just playing Fortnite, FIFA, and Warzone. I mean, potentially it could, but it's a sort of massive generalization, I think. And
so the Capcom comment to me also kind of sticks in my craw, if you will, because they have more data than us, obviously. And I'm sure that there is a role played here by not having an install base as large as the PlayStation 4. But I think it also needs to be considered that Monster Hunter Wilds is largely considered a massively inferior game to Monster Hunter World.
Yeah, they're ignoring
and Monster Hunter World was sold best on PC.
Yeah.
Right? It was a huge selling game on PC. It ended up outselling the console versions. And guess what launched in a very bad state on PC? Monster Hunter Wilds. Which Capcom games usually launch great, but Monster Hunter Wilds was not very good on PC, as we know, to the point where the developers had to they almost had to apologize for it, and are going back and doing major fixes because it was a bad PC release. And I think I'm surprised they're not willing to acknowledge that probably also played a role. If Monster Hunter was so big on PC and then all of a sudden their next game doesn't run well on PC.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
this is a bit like them pointing out something and just being naked, in front of an audience.
Right?
Yeah, it is very funny when you put it like that. And it's also weird to talk about the PlayStation audience when they've always said they are focusing their next titles as PC led. It is actually a very weird statement in the end. I wonder what the prompting was to it. Yeah.
Plus, given, realistically, if they wanted to ship that on PS4, what would that have meant for them, realistically?
Right.
The game does not run well on anything, at least at launch.
And it's also kind of not great looking. What would that
How
PS4
are they getting
version?
that working on PS4? That's what I want to know. I'm sure they would love to get it on Switch too, but even that seems like a stretch at this point. Clearly, and that's the thing is, RE Engine is extremely good for the types of games it was designed initially to work with, right? And it's still awesome. It's one of my favorite engines out there, but it's clearly there's an issue with doing these larger open world titles. Dragon's Dogma 2 already showed it, and Monster Hunter Wilds doubly so. They need to sort of work on that a bit, I think, going forward.
Agreed.
Well, the good news from Capcom's perspective is that the game has already sold 10 million units. So, this is basically them talking about scaling beyond those 10 million units. So it's a different sort of. I think we can assume that the sales were actually pretty good for them at launch, and it's just the sort of longer term, the long tail, so to speak, that they're actually more concerned about. But yeah, that's certainly an interesting viewpoint. But I get what you're saying there, John. What can I say? It wasn't a particularly great game at launch. There is a lot of work to be done there still, I think.